Me.
Okay.
It says it's recording.
Okay. Cool. All
Yeah.
right. So I'm going to introduce you.
Okay.
Alrighty. Hey guys, thanks for being on. For those of you who know me, maybe don't know me, my name is Jill Cherry, owner of Cherry Picked Webco. I specialize in chiropractic websites. I've been doing that for about 3 years now, and I really love it. We've helped close to like 370 docs up to this point. Um, and it's just what I'm passionate about. I love to also stay in my lane, which means I am really, really phenomenal at website design. I know about ads and ad strategy and ad marketing. However, that is not my 10. And so I really like to partner with people who I love and trust. And Kendall is one of those people in my life that I know he would not steer us wrong tonight. So I wanted to give him an audience of you guys. We have known each other we were just talking before we hopped on for 10 years, which makes me feel really old. So you kind of seen the progression of me from like timid chiropractic wife behind the scenes, just there to like kind of be there to support Jay, to really kind of stepping in out of the shadows and advancing the profession we know and love. But this is Kendall Price. He is the owner of Elevate Marketing Solutions on top of being a chiropractor, and I'm sure he'll get into that. But everyone give a big, warm, silent welcome to Kendall.
Cool. Well, thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. And we both know who the brains behind that operation was all along. So,
Thank you. I'll
um,
make sure Jason watches this later.
I figured he was hanging in the background.
He's not our son
So,
at baseball.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, guys, I am, for those of you guys who are chiropractors here on this, I was just like you guys. I experienced a lot of the same things that a lot of practices
Yeah.
experience when it comes to digital marketing. I had kind of bounced around from agency to agency, trying to figure it out.
Hey, Kendall, one second. If you guys aren't muted, if you could go ahead and mute yourselves, that would be beautiful, just so we can all hear. Thank you. Lovely, beautiful. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, kind of the story of kind of the evolution of Elevate was pretty organic. I was running my practice. Opened my practice in 2015, and we grew fast. I was running $1 million practice within 5 years of being out in practice. But I kept having this. What I came to realize was that marketing was the thing that either makes or breaks a practice, right? And how you market is so important, and the partnerships that you form within that. And I'm a firm believer in working with, like, choosing your relationships and really diving in and making that a team, right? Making them part of your team. And so the way
Okay,
it
it's
started
all
for
right.
us was really pretty simple. I had a guy that was a gym owner that was right next door to me, and he was running his own ads. And he's like, I was kind of moaning and groaning about all of the things that I was dealing with, right? The inconsistency in leads, the problem of constantly having to reach out to my marketing vendors, and as opposed to being very proactive about it. And so I was talking with him about all these things, and as he started running my ads, we started to develop this relationship. And so we would sit down on Fridays, and for hours we would just whiteboard out what it would look like to have the perfect marketing agency for chiropractors. And don't get me wrong, nothing's ever perfect, but like, how do we create the best system that can allow for predictable results, predictable growth in a practice, right? There's always going to be fluctuations in what happens in the market. And we all know this because if you look at your practice and you look at your numbers in January versus March versus July versus November versus December, those numbers, especially when it comes to new patients, are always going to fluctuate some. And so, we started to build a system, and that's really what this has always been based around. And not only that, I'm a chiropractor. Um, I serve as vice president of my state association, even still. And I do that because it's about me doing what I do is about helping the chiropractic profession grow, because I knew that even though I could see 400 visits a week in my practice, there was still something bigger that I wanted to be able to give and serve and help others be able to attain the level of success and serve their communities even more. And so that's really where the genesis of this whole thing came from. And the reason why, I love what I do every single day, because I get to get on the phone with chiropractors and talk about the struggles that they're dealing with and how we can help them to be able to grow, what it is that they're doing. And so that's my goal for tonight, is to really go on a high level and then dive a little bit deep in each of those. And then at the end, I'll open it up for some Q&A, answer some questions. Um, I will try and go as deep as I can, but I will make myself available to anyone who has more specific, like very specific questions. Afterwards, I'll share my Calendly link and we can set up times to, just be able to chat strategy and those sort of things too. So, because again, this for me is all about helping you guys to be able to grow your practices, and ultimately help you guys be able to serve your community more. So that's my heart. That's where I'm at. And so with that being said, we'll kind of jump in and get rolling. So, um, I always start with this because it's like, why did you become a chiropractor? Right. And I think that a lot of the times the answer why we became a chiropractor was because we wanted to do just that. We wanted to help people. We didn't get into this thinking about the marketing. We didn't get into this thinking about how do we run this ad, or how do we design a website, or how do we get out and reach our community. We knew that we wanted to do that, but we don't necessarily know how. And so I think that understanding that, and that with a lot of marketing agencies that are out there, they don't have the same mentality. It's more about money than it is about the service of people. And so that is the big thing, because our focus with what we do is twofold. And I think that when we switch our minds a little bit around marketing, that we're essentially going after two things when we do marketing, right? We're not just looking to get those patients in the doors. Yes, that is ultimately how you are going to get a return on your investment on your marketing dollars. But if you look at it from the bigger scheme, people in your community are never going to know about chiropractic if you're not doing things to be able to educate them, be able to share a unique message, and ultimately to be able to share what that is. Because I can tell you this, if you went through the last 10 to 15 patients that you had in your new patients that you had in your office, most of them have had their problem going on for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, a year or more, right? People are not always ready to buy right away. And that's the reason why having systems in place is so important, to be able to nurture those leads and be able to continue to keep moving them down the funnel towards ultimately making an appointment in your office. Because the more that they consistently see you, that dividend pays over time. And that's where I like to try and shift the focus around when we talk about marketing digitally, or even whether you're out doing a health talk in your community, that it's about service to your community, and it's investing into your practice and into your community.
For sure.
And so obviously at the end of the day, we've got to consider what our return on our investment is. Um, and I can kind of hang my hat on the fact that our bottom 25% of clients are consistently seeing a 3-to-1 return on their investment. And so as long as we can do that, that's where you can continue to see success, especially long term with partnerships. And so we'll dive into kind of the way that we go about this, right? So at Elevate, like, our goal is that it's not just about the ads, right? Marketing needs to be a system within your office, right? Just the same way that if you do an office tour in your office, or the way you do your day ones, the way you take your x-rays, the way you do your exams, the way that you analyze a patient before you adjust them, those things are really important for the in office. But on the patient acquisition side of things, you need to be able to do those same things. You need to have a strategy and you need to have a system in place. And so, the system for us is, number one, it's meta ads because we talk about in our business that meta ads are going to they're going to raise awareness, right? And it's going to get people asking questions. Google ads, your website, and good SEO strategy are going to answer those questions for people because the goal is that they see that and maybe they click and they book an appointment, but they're doing all of those other things and looking at all of those other things. And that's why having a holistic digital approach is so important. This is why, when Jill and I first started talking about what we were going to do here, this is why I think we align so much because we're in agreement on the way that the structure happens. And so,
And also,
our
I love what
yeah,
I'm going to interject because I love what you're saying. And I think a lot of people miss the mark when it's like they just focus solely on the one thing, or they just focus solely on Facebook or Instagram or Google ads or their website or whatever. And when you say it's a holistic approach, it really is. Like, think about your user behavior when you're checking out someone new. You typically go to their socials first and see, like, what are they into? What do they stand for? Are they active? And then you kind of venture over into, or you see an ad, right? And then you venture into Google and you read the reviews, and then it's the website, and you need to make sure you're touching on all the points. Um, and when we first initially met, and what made me want to have this webinar tonight was because I loved your approach on, and it was different than I've heard of any other ad company out there. You are very much like, we do the research for the person of like, where
right,
are they located? First of all, we find out who is their ideal client, where are they hanging out, where are they located, how competitive is it? And I think all of those metrics are really important to discuss beforehand before we even get to the root of like setting up an ad and budget and all of those things. Um,
yeah,
that's how we approach building a website. It's not just throwing a bunch of stuff together and seeing what sticks. It's being extremely structured and extremely like very niche down into, well, what is our goal, right? Who is our
yeah.
person? How do we speak? And I loved that. So yeah, I'm excited to learn more.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I mean, truth be told, guys, any of you guys in a weekend could learn how to run a meta ad or a Google ad.
Sure.
The question is it structured properly? Is it optimized properly? And is it integrated into a complete system? And when you put all of those pieces together, that's when you really start seeing the success. And so I'll kind of jump into this. So this is the anatomy of digital marketing, right? At least as far as the lead generation side. Obviously, I left off the website and the SEO, but that stuff is equally as important when you're doing this. And Jill does the web. We don't do websites. We do SEO optimization, but like these are the structures that we really come at this from. And so we'll dive into each one of those and kind of how we do this. And so this is what Jill was talking about when she talked about the information. And so the first thing, so I want to take you guys back to when you opened your practice, right? I mean, some of you maybe went and did, maybe you just went back to your hometown, but for a lot of people, when you started looking at where you were going to place your practice, you started looking at demographic information. You started looking at, hey, like I live in Springfield, Illinois. The east side of town is a little bit older. It's the older population. The west side is very much an area that is young families. It's more of the ideal demographic. So like if I was choosing to put a practice in one place or the other, I'm going to put that practice in the place based on what I want to, the type of people that I want to see and the people that I want to take care of. And so that is the first thing that we always do with our clients. And it's the thing that everybody should be doing when they think about their marketing is taking the step back and saying, who is your ideal client, right? Who is your ideal patient? If you think about the patient that walks through your doors that you are absolutely excited to see every time they come in because you're going to have a great conversation. They're so thankful, right? So for me in my practice, that was Marsha Arb, right? And Marsha was awesome. She owned they owned a food flavor company. Her husband worked at the company. They had two boys that were awesome athletes and just good kids, very involved in their church. It was like those were the people that I wanted to take care of. Versus now think about the patient that walks in your doors and you're like, I love you because you are under care. and I want to take care of you, but you suck the life out of me sometimes. I know you all have those patients or those people in your life a little bit. And so it's like, who do you want to market to out of those two people, right? And so taking that perspective and then looking at the data, right? So I always give this example. A practice, um, we've got a practice that's in Little Rock, Arkansas. That office, it doesn't matter what they do, it's a gold mine, right? Just where they're at, it's an awesome practice. They crush it. Versus my practice that was in the Chicago suburbs, we had a lot of differences, right? I can tell you that across the board, it's different demographics, but we were looking for the same people. But for me, in the western suburbs of Chicago, to get the same results, we had vastly different ad spends that we had to get in order to get the same results, right? And so I always
I'm
think of it.
curious,
Yeah,
Kendall, for those of you in here, and feel free to unmute yourself to answer and then mute yourself for us. But how many times have you sat through a meeting with an ad agency and they kind of just gave you like a blanket, it's going to be this per month and we can get you X amount of people, as leads. And they never really dove into like the fact that you're not competing against other chiropractors, you're competing against everybody else. And so what you're saying in the suburb of Illinois versus like the countryside where it's like
right.
you spend $1,000 and they spend $1,000, they're raking in millions of dollars and you're like barely breaking even. So it's like it is totally different. Um, yeah, James said, "Yep, definitely." So
It,
I
it,
love
it,
that.
it happens everywhere, right?
Yeah,
And this is the broad. It's just like your care plans with patients, right? You're not going to give the same recommendation to someone who has phase three degeneration as someone who's coming in with wellness care. But that's what marketing agencies do, because it's not based on real data, right? And so, like before a person ever starts working with us, it's also looking at what other people in your area are doing. So, yes, we're competing against all of the other businesses on Facebook for that space, but we also have to look at what's happening in our local markets. And so I get a lot of people that will come to us and say, "Well, I don't want to run a $49 new patient special because my care is I have this certification and this certification and this." And guys, I told you I love chiropractors. I love you all. I am one of you. People don't care. People do not care about those things unless it's something that they are specifically looking for. And in that case, that's where your website should really be telling that sort of story. Facebook is about creating awareness for what's going on.
what if somebody comes to you and they're like, "Well, that $49 special is devaluing my care."
Yeah.
Have you
So
ever gotten that question?
all the time,
How do you
all the time.
how do you field it?
So this is where you have to create enough value in your ads and in what you're doing, that if you're not doing things to put more value on your care, and you're not putting the work and the time and the effort into posting really good organic content that's actually getting engagement, I hate to say this, but you actually don't really have the right to say that at that time, right? And the other part about that I always tell people is we know what the value of our care is, but they don't, right? Because if you took 10 chiropractors and you lined every one of us up and you asked, "Tell me what you do," I would say probably 9 out of every 10 are going to be very, very similar. And and it pains me to actually say this, because it's like we all are very unique in the way that we practice, but a lot of times people have never taken that approach to really try and make themselves as unique as possible. And so it's it's one of those that your first experience for a patient coming into your office, they should be leaving saying, "Holy cow, like I cannot believe that I just got all of that for $49."
That's a
Right?
good, really good.
Because because what that does is that sets you up for a report of findings where when you have that sort of experience for them when they come in for that first day, that they're already sold on what you're going to do on day 2 and what your recommendations and your approach is going to be, because we're going to be losing money on that first day, There's no doubt about it. It doesn't matter if you're running a 21 or a 100, your time is worth more than that, but it's a funnel to get people interested in the value that you will provide to them. And when you over provide on that first visit, now you've set the stage for you to over provide in the care that you are ultimately going to give to those patients.
Yeah, that's good. And then I would
So
assume that your ad system still works for docs who don't do day one, day two, that if they only have, a day one, system where they analyze the patient and adjust them same day, like it would still work, right?
for sure. Right. Yeah. And so and again, that's part of where you have to tailor things to to what you're doing, right? And this is where, we've got, so I give you, for instance, we've got a pediatric prenatal. They specialize in um, kids on the spectrum right now. And so the process for their practice is totally different because they actually don't want those patients coming in the doors because they know how overwhelming it can be for those kids. So
Okay.
we've got theirs set up to where it's actually a 10-minute phone call that they do with the patient before they actually come into the office for the exam because they're trying to shorten the time that those sensory issue children are dealing with so they can real short visits, get them in, get them out, get them in, get them out,
Yeah.
to really help them with that. And so,
That's very unique. So you help literally office by office. Like if it is a neurodiverse, pediatric clinic, you can help them. And you
yep,
can help a clinic who specializes in auto accidents, which is two totally different ends of the spectrum.
right. And
Okay.
that's where these sort of market analysis are helpful because then we can be able to actually take a test ad set and put it into Facebook and start looking at their demographics and be able to say, okay, based on if we did $100 a day versus $200 a day versus you know $250 a day, like what is that going to equate to as far as leads? And so then we can look at someone's goals and be able to say, okay, based on your goals, we can math this backwards to say this is essentially what you should be spending if you want to hit those goals.
Okay.
And so so that helps us to be able to understand. And so how we structure that, how we structure ad spend, how we structure offers, because I always give the example like when I had four associates that worked for me. When I brought in new associates, the number one thing that associates need is reps with day ones and day twos, right? They need to get their skin toughened up a little bit around having conversations with people and being able to convey the chiropractic story and build value. And so I would drop my offer down to be way less because I knew that that was going to lead to more new patients, but
Mhm.
I wasn't going to see any of those patients. He was going to see all of those patients because that would give him additional reps to be able to grow those skills. And when he started closing those patients and the numbers started going, then we'd raise it back up. And so not every offer is right for every market and every practice at every time, right? I have a practice right now. I was joking about it with one of my marketing consultants today. They're actually getting ready to offboard with us because he said, I don't have any more new patient time slots. He said, everything is full for the practice. He's like, I've got to hire an associate. He's like, so I've got to stop advertising for a while. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, well, you need to, like, we need to work on that aspect of your practice now. So, but
That's
yeah,
all.
so this is, what we do on the front side with all of our clients. And these are the things that you should be looking at when you're running your ads is the marketing company that you're working with looking at the data and actually giving you personalized recommendations, or is it just cookie cutter, you know, recommendations that they would give to everybody? Because it can make the difference of whether or not a marketing campaign succeeds or fails.
For sure.
So that's this first part. The second part is creating ads that actually work, right? Um,
Love this. I
yes,
love this
create.
portion.
I
This is
I
all up
can't.
my alley.
Yes, I cannot emphasize to you guys how important creative is when it comes to your advertising.
I
Okay.
read a stat, according to Harvard's business school, 98% of people judge your credibility based on what and how you appear online. So, like, investing in professional photos for any type of marketing is like so key because it's 98%. you have a very small window to capture attention. I'm sure we'll just catch on that too, but it's like their attention span is like less than a second. And also they judge you within that second on like if you are like the real deal or not.
Yep.
So if you have these images that are like, I'm just gonna maybe ruffle feathers for a minute. I from your iPhone, I know the iPhone is great. I know that they say they have the best camera. I know all of this. Like right there with you guys. But when you use iPhone photos in like your website, for example, they pixelate, so they don't look as clear. You can get away with social media photos from your phone. I do it all the time. But if
Yep.
you have professional photos that you're getting for your website, double dip and utilize them in your ads, in your social media marketing. It just like gives you such a more clean, like professional look. Um, that's just going to be my caveat there for this portion. I'm
Yeah.
really passionate about it because it's one of those things a lot of people are like, oh, well, I'm spending money here and there. Why do I have to spend money on photos? And I'm like, because it makes all the difference. So,
And we especially talk about that, like from the static image perspective, like really good static images are, so number one, typically about 75% of leads are going to actually come from video ads, right?
interesting.
So if your agency that you work with is not running video ads, you're probably not optimizing your ad spend as much as you possibly can, because static ads, while they are important to run alongside video advertising, the static images are not really good. Static images will produce,
What kind of
but
videos? Because it says
yeah,
videos drive 75% of leads. Okay, what kind of video content should they be capturing?
yes. So I'm going to tell you, this is an example of what not to do is, hey, I'm Dr. Kendall with Aurora Chiropractic. Scroll. And 99% of chiropractors start with, hey, I'm Dr. Kendall. They don't care. Starting with a good hook. So this speaks to what you're talking about, you have 2 to 3 seconds tops to get them to stop scrolling,
Yeah,
right? Versus if I said, psst, hey, Aurora, right? They're going to stop, right? You know, and then you can cut into things. So we recommend doing a variety of things, but like,
and you use
so
comedy? Like what if like okay, hypothetical, if I was a chiropractor, I hate filming myself, but I know I have to do it. So I think the way that I get myself to do it is by doing like comical things. Can you start with like some comedy and then switch into like
anything,
whatever?
your first 3 seconds is to do nothing but get them to stop scrolling,
Okay,
right? Like, taking your head and whipping it in. Hey, hey, Aurora, things that are going to stop people from scrolling is what you want. Because if you can get them to stop scrolling, you've won half the battle already,
for
right?
sure.
That is the goal of any video ad, and the hook portion of your ad is getting people to stop their scroll and actually pay attention to what you're going to say. And then leading off with really good questions, right? Things like, have you ever dealt, are you sick and tired of, excuse me, are you sick and tired of dealing with that sciatica? Are you sick and tired of not being able to sleep at night? Are you sick and tired of feeling constantly exhausted? And then leading into who you are. Hey, I'm Dr. Kendall with Aurora Chiropractic, right? So doing things that are going to speak to that person, right? And that can be around neck pain, that could be around back pain, that could be around asthma or allergies, or weight loss, or you know are you stuck at, is your scale stuck 20 pounds heavier than you want it to be? Hey, I'm Dr. Kendall with Aurora Chiropractic.
I
And
would
then it's
stop at
going,
that.
what's that?
I would stop at that and be like, yeah, tell me what you got to lose my extra 20 pounds.
Exactly. And so like when you create really strong hooks around your creative, it's super super important, and it's one of the most undervalued thing. And it's the thing that is probably the hardest for chiropractors, because we don't think about these things. But if you can create content that is going to stop people from scrolling, it's really, really important. And this is where, if you are a doc, an owner of your practice, get your team involved in this, right? Because like it or not, like if you have a female CA, females stop the scroll more than males do, right? This is the reason why when we run ads for our company, we have females recording some of the females that work for us recording the same ad. And if I do that ad and one of the women that works for me does one of those ads, those ladies always outperform. And so having your team have fun with it is a really, really good way to create good creative that's actually going to produce results, right?
Question
um,
for you. So
yeah,
this is for everybody, okay? So say we had a four-step process into creating a video for an ad. The first is we want to stop the scroll, then we
yep,
want to ask the question, then
yep,
we lead into who we are, and then to
yep.
end that video creative, what would you say?
I'm gonna make it a 5 part.
Okay?
So the number 4, so hook, questions, right? Introduction of who you are.
Yeah.
The fourth part of that is what is unique about your practice, right? What is the thing that they have never heard about? So, like in my area, I don't know, for whatever reason, I was the only one who used an Insight subluxation station, and I was the only one who did motion x rays.
Hmm.
And so I would bring those things up in my ad and with B roll of showing what that looked like so they could see something that was unique or different. And then the fourth part or the fifth part is a strong call to action. A call to action of this is and creating some sense of urgency, right? Hey, this is only available, until the end of the month and we only have 15 vouchers or whatever that may be. You may extend that and but you're trying to create some sense of urgency. And sometimes that feels a little bit disingenuous, but you're trying to get people to take action. And so that's why you do that. And what's interesting about that, Jill, is that if when I looked at my website analytics, the number one page on my page was what is thermography and SEMG and what is a motion study x-ray.
Hmm.
They were looking at the things that were unique about what my practice did. And so if you put those 5 things together, that's what creates really good ad creative.
Love that. And then also, maybe there's some people in here who are listening to this. I think the number one area chiropractors, just because I do strategy calls all day long, the number one thing they struggle with is, well, what does set me apart? Like what does make me unique? And I think one of the easiest ways to find this out is go read your reviews on Google
Yep.
and find like the top three common themes that people say. So, like, you're super responsive, you're super kind, you made them feel heard. That's one way to do it. Another way is simply put out a survey in the front desk of your office and say, we're looking to get better. Help us out by taking a survey. The survey is completely anonymous. We don't know if it's you or your next door neighbor. And it's just some feedback. And then on that survey, you can ask them what makes us unique from any other chiropractic experience you've had in the past. So, those are two ways you can really figure out what makes your practice stand out from others.
Yep. It's huge. So, I mean, those so like that ad that I'm talking about, that's what we call a talking head video, right? And you will splice B-roll into that of like you adjusting and things. Adjusting videos are really, really good with voiceovers. Same thing with testimonials. Like if you can bring some really good recorded testimonials. And so like the one thing that used to drive us crazy is we would get videos from people and the sound would be terrible. So like we send all of our clients a microphone that plugs into their phone so that way they can just clip that right. In fact, like I keep mine right here, right? So it's just something simple that pop it in my phone, put it on my collar, turn it on, and boom, we're ready to record, right? Something really, really simple like that, but that can make or break the difference. And then having that content actually be edited. So like we have 4 video editors on staff at Elevate that's all they do is take those ads and turn them into the sort of videos that people actually want to see and that are going to stop the scroll. And so like the way that we do this is we'll have people go through a branding exercise to kind of get the understanding of what it is, and then we take that and we create a brand guideline of like, this is what we're going to do. Are you good with this? And then we'll help you write your scripts of like, this is what you're going to record for your ads. And so that really helps us to be able to hone in on creating ads that are going to really pop to the people that you want to see those ads, and ultimately to get you the best return on your investment, because this is so important. In fact, Meta sent I always read Meta's emails. Like most people just like, right? Like you get Meta email and you just toss it aside. So
Yeah.
Meta sent an email today that said after somebody sees your ad 4 times, conversion rates go down by 45%.
After 4 times, 45%.
Yep, 45% on average. And so if you think about that, like this is where a lot of people will, like our team they're pretty crazy about like, hey, we need new creative. We need new creative. We need new creative. And good agencies are going to do that because you can start looking at the numbers. And so like if you're ever in your Facebook ads manager, you can look and there's a number that says there's a column that says frequency. And so if that frequency, meaning the average number of times somebody has seen that ad, is over, typically when we start getting to the 2, we're starting to ask for more creative. When we get to the 3, it's like red alarm. We get to the 4, we know things are going to start dropping off. And
Interesting.
so taking
I don't
yeah.
know if you have this planned, but I like this. I like people to walk away with something where they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I spent an hour with those two." Can you share with us, like, first of all, because I feel like people in here are just starting. Where do you even go to get to like the ad center in Meta? Like, what do you type into your
So
browser?
just business.facebook.com.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's and we can I mean maybe that's a whole nother video where we jump into going through all of those things. But um it- going in and looking at those numbers and analyzing those numbers, like there are little like question mark like of like what that means. And I'm telling you guys, there's 1,000 different um YouTube videos that are out there that can go through and explain a lot of these things to you. And I think that that's the thing, that whether you are going to run your own ads or you are going to hire an agency, having a baseline understanding of just very very baseline sort of information is so important, just to be able to look at what is happening in your ads and understand, is the agency doing a good job or are they not? Right. And so if you can do those sort of things, that is going to help you to be able to know, hey, this is what's going on, and are we moving in the right direction or not?
I love that.
So um optimization, right? So optimizing ads. This is where most people struggle, right? Because Facebook ads are not a set and forget it. We've got about 250 clients right now that we're running ads for.
That is so much
We're
work. This is why I
we're
don't. This is why,
yeah,
this
and
is
I
why you're the
mean,
expert.
I have 40 employees, so it's like I'm not doing this all myself. I'll be honest, I haven't been in an actual ad campaign other than like Elevates in a while. Um, but we have dedicated people that are going in and looking at these things every single day, right? I've got 6 media buyers that are the people that actually are doing the tweaks and the modifications, when the marketing consultants who are helping to go between the media buyers and our clients to find out what's happening so we can start to get this right. And so Meta recommends optimizations are happening every 1 to 2 weeks minimum. And a lot of people don't do that, right? And so, the cookie cutter sort of, you know, hey, we'll set this up and we'll let this go until it stops working. This is where we run into a lot of issues. So if you're at the point where you're having to reach out to your ads manager or your ad marketing company, it's a problem already, right? Because you're already behind the ball. So
Interesting.
that's more of a shorter slide, right? But we always need to do things, and the way that we can optimize, we're optimizing to not waste spend, right? Because I have some clients that are in fact, I've got a guy in Miami that is spending $12,000 a month just in his ad budget. Granted, it's multiple campaigns and multiple ad sets, but he is still consistently seeing a return on that investment, right? And so you get to a point where the conversation and this is a shift where it's like a lot of the times when we get people coming on, they ask, what do I have to spend to get results? And the question that we really need to be asking ourselves is not what do I have to spend, but what can I spend and still get results and still get an ROI?
That's a
And
good
so, we have to continue to maximize that. So like I'll tell you guys, like my ad budget on a monthly basis is somewhere between 20 and $30,000, right? But I know that based on the numbers that it will consistently produce results as long
How
as my
much of
create.
a return do you get? So, like, if you're getting your money back and then say a percentage on top of that, like, of what
So
you expect, you know what I mean?
our goal is that within the first recommendation for a client that they're getting at least a 4-to-1 return,
Okay.
right? That's our goal, right? Again, bottom 25%, 3-to-1. Our top 10% is like 12-to-1, right? So there's some offices out there that absolutely crush it with this, but it all goes into those things that we talked about, right? Like, how is their market, right? So that's one that none of us can control, but we can do things to make ourselves better, right? And that's where the creative aspects come in. That's where a an offer that's really appealing comes in, and that's where looking at ad budgets and things like that, because it's pay to play, right? And so many ad agencies will just push you to spend more money before things are optimized, and so our goal is to let's get things to where they're working, you're making money, and then slowly incrementally increase that, right? So maybe you're spending 2,000 in ad spend, and then you go to $2,500 the next month, and you optimize that, and then you increase until you get to a point where you're like, if I spend 3,000 or 3,500, I see no change in those things.
Hey,
And so,
Kendall,
yeah.
James asked, I'm finding people are upset with the ads for my SoftWave machine. We say we are giving away the initial treatment for $69. People are wondering how it is, quote, giving it away when it's $69. So maybe that's like the verbiage of the ad. Any insights for him?
So at that kind of goes into the creative aspect. So your ad copy as well. So I I I don't like I don't like how that's phrased, giving it away, right? We're doing the initial treatment, so we're doing an initial consultation where we're going to sit down, talk about your issues. We're going to talk about you. We're going to do an examination to determine exactly what's going on. And your first treatment is included with this offer as well. And we're doing that all for $69. But don't wait, blah, 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 blah. So how you phrase things, people will get picky, and I don't love the way it's written, but I will also tell you that um, that type of person is probably not going to be the person that actually walks into your office anyway. Those are the keyboard warriors of the world that they would never say something like that to your face.
Hmm.
So not concerning yourselves with those sort of people. It's like the same people who get on your ads and say chiropractors aren't even doctors or whatever. It's like just hide the comment and ban them from your page, because they're never going to be someone who actually converts into your office anyway. So um I wouldn't worry about those people so much. But yeah, I mean, thinking about and choosing the words that you say is important. You really do want to think about the way when you're writing an ad that you say as much as you possibly can with as few of words as you can, so it's very, very to the point about what it is, what the offer is, because the goal is to get them to click, enter their information, schedule an appointment, and then start looking at you, because that's just going to reinforce the sale of them coming into your office.
And I will say there is a place for long form content. It's just not going to be in these types of ads. So
Absolutely.
for example, full disclosure, I pretty much do everything that I do to then turn around and teach people how I did it. So, like for tonight, for example, I love this because I'm learning so much. I hope you guys are too. But I'm fully going to turn around and utilize this as a long form content. And
Yeah.
then there is an app out there called, I can't think of it. I'll throw it in the chat when I do remember it, but it can basically take this long form content and break it up into smaller pieces of content that I can put into reels on social media. So again, there is a time and a place. And what we're talking about right now is again to that short, to the point, this is for your
Yep.
ads. So
Yep.
if you like to talk, there's place for it, just not in ads.
Yes. And that's so that like we do this a lot with our ads. So um we do a lot of landing page based ads for our agency. And the way that we do those is we try and be as short and sweet to get people to click to the landing page. And then on the landing page, we'll put a 3 to 6 minute video on there explaining the process because everybody wants to know what they're signing up for before they sign up for it. And so that's a really good way to be able to do that. Um, and then, having that, so they're like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah. So you're driving more excitement around actually buying. Um, and so, yeah, to your point, that's it. It is. I use a software called Riverside for what you're talking about, Jill,
Okay.
because I
Riverside,
do. Riverside is one that I use for it.
I use Opus.pro. Like literally you can have one brain cell and use it. You just upload your long form content. It does all the work for you for every single platform. You said yours was Riverside.
Yeah, so it's actually a podcast based software, but they have AI generated script, voiceovers and everything in that, so you can be able to pull things.
Riverside.fm.
Yep,
Okay,
yep, that's what we
cool.
use.
I'll throw that in the chat for
So
everyone.
that is a paid one, and it's like $30 a month, but it's got a
Oh,
lot of really cool tools.
I believe Opus is free up to like 5 videos and then, but it's all in the chat, guys. So if you're interested in either of those two, they're in the chat.
Yeah. Um, okay. So Google, we'll jump into Google. So I will start by saying that if these work together, right? And you need to think about this as you want to own Google from the perspective of being in 3 spots. Sponsored ads, right, which is what we're going to talk about, being in the map pack, right, which means being in that top 3 of practices in your area, and then being on that first page when it comes to your organic search. And so, and the reason why that's important, especially if you're in the top 3, is that the top 3 are going to get 70% of the clicks was the last number that I saw when it comes to your actual. And so if you show up 3 times, it's not always about just them clicking on the ad and converting, but you have to consider all 3 of those spots and what's happening with leads from your website when it comes to Google Ads. And um, so like we're considered a Google Premier partner. And so Google Premier Partner, I'll be honest, it's not that impressive. You have to spend $10,000 within 90 days on Google in order to get that. But it's something that people will tell you about that, oh, I'm a Google Premier Partner. It does unlock some benefits for you. At least, like for us, it unlocks it for, they'll throw some ad spend behind your ads, that's free, right? Um, but it's all about those same things, right? It's understanding those local markets and and demographics. Who else is running ads? Because Google very much is a pay to play um, sort of system,
One
right?
question for you also while we're here, because we
Yeah.
just got done doing Meta and now we're on to Google. Where do you feel like someone should advertise for, say, low-hanging fruit, right? They're like, they already know they need a chiropractor. They don't need to be convinced. They're just looking for the most convenient for them. Would those people be hanging out on Google, social media, both? And then in the same light, like if we're just wanting to run ads for top of mind awareness, like would that be Google, social media, both? Like, can you touch on the kind of where they want to spend most of their money?
It's
for
an
the
excellent question, and it's I would say it depends, right? I'll say that it depends first, and you need to think about what your goals are in your practice, and so that's the question. And so, like, if you're just trying to create more awareness about your practice, Facebook brand awareness campaigns, like you could put $300 a month in behind putting content out, and that's going to drive brand awareness. If you are trying to bring in high quality, like if you're only looking to get five, 4 or 5 new patients a month because your practice is full and you don't want to bring on an associate and you're like, I'm good, Google's the way to go. But if you're in a phase where you are not at the goal that you if you are not at the numbers where you want your practice to be, Facebook is absolutely the first place that I would start advertising because it's the cheapest form of digital marketing that you can do. Um, and it can drive really, really good results if it's done well. Layering in, once you get to a point where you've stabilized your practice from that perspective, and the person who's like, look, I don't want as many tire kickers. That's where, if we look at like Facebook and Google, if we're spending more in Facebook and less in Google, we can start to shift those budgets in a fashion to where we're putting more maybe towards Google versus towards, because Google typically takes a little bit longer to really start seeing the traction, because you got to remember.
how
Yeah, go
long would
ahead.
you say someone has to commit to advertising on Google in order to see results? Because
You'll
one,
s- yeah, go ahead, sorry, finish.
no, you're good. I know we're both excited because we feel, but it's like, the number one question you get is probably the number one question I get is like, well, how long until I see the results? And like, we live in such a fast-paced world where it's like we have, fast food, fast workouts, fast everything. And it's like, this is one thing where you have to let it like kind of marinate a little bit. So,
8 to 12 weeks is where you're really going to start seeing traction with it. And so it's like marketing is like getting a train rolling, right? It takes the most energy in the beginning, and then you've kind of hit your stride at that point, and now it's hard to stop once you get it where it needs to be. And so this is the biggest mistake most chiropractors make anyway, is that things maybe go well for 90 days with an ad agency, and then you have one bad month or 6 weeks of bad results and you see an ad for another company. We're easily sold,
yeah,
right? And I'm telling you, it is if you get things right and you lean into the relationship, you will get more out of it than trying to switch agencies, because every time you restart with a new agency, you're restarting. It's like you're restarting your marketing all over again. And that's whether it's Facebook or Google. You're restarting your marketing all over again. And so it's hurting your results long term, and it's costing you more money than you know.
interesting. Hmm.
So, um, but when it comes to Google, we all know like the high intent sort of words that people are going to use, right? Chiropractor near me, chiropractor in Aurora, right? Chiropractor, um, Batavia. Like, those words. And those are the words that a lot of times people really focus on. And what we have really figured out in doing this I mean, we've got probably 150 offices that are running this, is that the negative keywords that you use are almost more important because it filters out that low intent traffic.
Can you
Um,
explain what a negative keyword strategy means?
yes. So I'll give you an example. um, Medicaid, right? If I said a Medicaid patient in to you, if I was to say a Medicaid patient's going to come into your office, Jill, or what would you say?
Well, we don't accept Medicaid,
Okay.
so
So perfect example, right? Now, let's say you live in Kentucky. Kentucky pays on some of their plans, they pay upwards of 75 to $100 per visit,
okay.
and they'll cover 12 to 18 visits.
Well, now I
That may that may now make it more appealing to you to have that patient walk through your doors,
for sure.
right? And so again, this is about understanding not only your practice, but it's about understanding what you want to see and what you don't want to see. And that can make a world of difference. So we might use Medicaid in Florida or in Jersey as a negative keyword, but in Kentucky, we use it as a high intent keyword,
Hmm,
right?
interesting.
So understanding those sort of things, right? Um, chiropractor for, you know, elderly or chiropractor for geriatric chiropractor.
Yeah.
Some people love seeing old people, right?
Hey, we're getting some questions on how do you use this and where do you search for those keywords?
Where so a good tool that we use to look at keywords, Ahrefs has a tool, and you can use, I think they're as well as SEM Rush. So you're looking for keywords that people are searching for, and I think both of those. I mean, we've got the pro versions, but I think both of those you can get like a 2 week free trial, and you can actually look that up,
I'll put
right?
links in the chat also, guys.
Yeah, and so those two are really good websites that you can use to be able to look at those sort of keywords. Um, there's another one, but I cannot think of what it is off the top of my head. Um,
There's similar Web Pro is a tool that I use for website analytics, but I believe you can get keywords on there too.
yeah, and so there's a number of tools that if you just look for SEO, because you're looking for SEO keywords, right? So SEO, SEO keyword, finder, right? If you look for things because what you're trying to figure out is what are the terms that people are searching most often, and how do I take those and put those into my ads to be able to help um, create ads that are going to get the most traffic and the most traction.
For sure.
um, so that's really cool. Google is actually they're pushing their new AI platform a lot too.
It's
And
awful. Don't use it. For anyone who follows me knows that I do a lot of research and studies in AI, and Google's platform as of right now, March 13th, 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's not the best. There's other ones, but go on.
yeah, and so they're pushing that really hard, and so they are trying to push people towards that. And I can tell you right now, um yeah, it's a mess when it comes to that. You can use it for um your branded sort of search, right? So like I give you like Aurora Chiropractic, like those sort of, it's good for that, and it can help to reduce your ad spend on those sort of keywords. But those keywords most people are not looking for anyway. But your unbranded, sciatica chiropractor near me, like those unbranded, that's not your name. Those are the ones where it really does take optimization behind that in order to really get, the sort of results that you're looking for.
I'm going to ask a question that ruffles feathers to keep it
Ooh,
interesting because
yes.
I know we all have children and it's close to bedtime. So why not keep it interesting? How do you feel on running AdWords against your competitors or like on your competitors? So, for example, during COVID, um, you know, the very popular bikes, the Pelotons.
Yes.
Nordic Track ran ads using a keyword of Peloton. So therefore they ranked above Peloton even if you typed in Peloton. Okay. So people have the habit of just clicking the first link and they were all ordering Nordic Tracks, which ended up they I think surpassed Peloton in sales. Do you find that, let's just like rapid fire, is that sleazy or tactical?
Both. It's sleazy to me because I want to beat somebody in a fair fight.
Right.
And so this is the reason why every single practice should be running branded keyword ads for their practice, even if they're only putting $300 a month behind it, because it protects your brand.
There you go. Okay.
So, so note to self, right?
Should I?
So
What
fun
about the
fact,
name?
this actually happened in the chiropractic space as well between two of the largest chiropractic franchises as well.
We're gonna keep them not, we're
Yes.
gonna keep them nameless.
Yes.
Um,
So, but it happens in our space too.
okay,
Um, now I will tell you that so this is just like some of our so every year Google puts out a report based on industry, right? So the industry cost per lead for chiropractic in 2023 was $66. Um, ours is $44, right? Meaning to get someone to click and submit their information or to call your office on average it costs $44 per person, right? If the industry average, so this is where hiring an agency makes sense.
for
if
sure.
you can't get if you can't beat those numbers, this is where hiring somebody that can watch it, because it takes a lot to run ads and do it really successfully. um and so that's the reason, kind of the selfless plug, I guess you could say. But the more you understand that, and creating, landing pages that match your ads and match what you're doing, really is super super important for that. And the other thing that people don't take into consideration is that landing pages should actually be SEO optimized as well.
Okay.
And they should match that, because Google, when they look at your ads and what you have, if they will go one layer deep into your landing page and actually look at those landing pages to see how relevant that content is and what the quality score is of a landing page, to actually know whether or not they should rank you higher or they should show your ads more. And so that's a really interesting fact that most people don't think about when they're creating landing pages, is that while you want to have a landing page that looks good and, you know, is engaging and has all the right buttons and all of this, having it SEO optimized actually makes a really big difference in your Google rank as well. So, uh,
Um, Super, super good insight. I know that we had said we were um gonna keep going till 9:30. So I realize you guys have given us an hour of your time. We're so thankful. We're gonna continue to roll through because I just think that, Dr. Kendall has a lot of super good information and insight. So stay on with us if you can. But I do realize some of you might have some children you got to get down to bed. The next question we have for you, Dr. Kendall, is from James. He said, so our current company doesn't change the ad until things fizzle out. We pay them $1,000 a month and then pay $750 in Facebook and ad spend. Can Elevate do better? I think, Dr. James, I'll gatekeep Kendall. That would be a question to have with him privately
yeah,
because he
I'm
doesn't
gonna,
do, I was
yeah,
just gonna say, you don't do costs like that, right? Like you do your due diligence, like in his area. They do research on like your person, where you're located, your keywords. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. He threw his Calendly link in the chat.
yep.
I would just book a call with him because I think that would be an appropriate question, just like directly with him
Yeah.
to give you better insight.
I mean, it'd be kind of, and like, I love the question and I hate the question, because it's one of those where it's like, I mean, it's like when someone comes into your office and says, I've got low back pain, can you fix it? It's like, well, is it because you know, you've got phase three of
Years of
degeneration?
damage. Yeah.
Yeah, like what are all the factors that play into it? And so that's why eh, I would rather steer you towards having a conversation versus just giving you a blanket sort of answer.
Do you do
um,
marketing only for chiropractors or do you do it for all sorts of business?
Mostly in the healthcare space. So chiropractors are our mainstay. I would say 70 to 80% of our offices are, but we have body contouring practices, we've got dentists, we've got orthodontists, we've got
Would
med
you,
spas.
would you do a cybersecurity firm?
That would be an interesting one, worth a conversation for sure.
There you go,
Worth a
Trevor. Hop
conversation
on
for
his
sure.
calendar.
Yeah.
Uh,
I do like doing one-off ones like that, because it keeps me fresh
yeah,
and
for sure.
moving in the right direction. So here, I'll go back to my
I know.
share.
I had a consult call with an architect yesterday, and I was like, I specialize in chiropractic. now that you fully know that, my knowledge base to build a website doesn't stop at that. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I like appreciate that. So, but I agree
Well,
with you.
and I will tell you that the same principles, whether it's chiropractic or a dentist or, and it's all the same sort of, it's all the same sort of
Strategy.
structure.
Yeah,
It's just applying it to the knowledge base of that thing.
for sure.
And and so sometimes it takes a little bit more conversation, especially if you're not as familiar with that. But again, the more that you lean into it,
Yeah.
the better you can get. So I've got two parts to go. So nurture. I am going to tell you guys right now, this is the thing that chiropractors and business owners
Think
do not understand more than anything, because the ads part of it, like I look at the service that we provide, and like the ads part of it is like half of it, and the nurture and the system that is created to be able to move a lead from I gave you my information, but I did not schedule, to I booked an appointment and I actually came in for that visit, or I got on that call, or whatever it is so important. And it's the thing that most people underappreciate about marketing agencies and how it's built more than anything. And so um, we've really leaned into AI, especially in so I can tell you, Trevor, this we do not have one for anything related to cybersecurity, but we created an AI model. It took us 8 months. Um, and this AI model it has absolutely changed the game, because one of the things that you need to understand about leads is that if you go beyond 5 minutes without contacting a lead, the chances of them actually coming into your office, depending on whose stats you look at, it's like 7 times less likely to show up in your office if they're not contacted within 5 minutes, right? Now, if you think about the leads that come into your practice or your business, most of them are coming in after hours, right? When do people stop and scroll through their Facebook feed and everything, or Instagram? It's at night when they're sitting on their couch. You're at home spending time with your family, right? How many babies did we see just on the call tonight, or everyone's saying, right? You should spend that time with them. And so we created this AI model that actually books books appointments and starts conversations. And the whole goal of it is to build trust, understand what the person is coming in with, to ultimately get them to book that appointment, right? On top of that, like for all of our clients, we actually have a call center that I trained on how to follow up with leads, and they work 6 days a week, 18 hours a day. And they're just constantly calling leads, calling leads, calling leads, because the more that we can continue to push out information, and we can continue to outreach to those potential leads, the greater likelihood that it is until that they come in. And so
Hey,
in
Kendall.
yeah.
We have a question. Do you forward leads to the office to call and convert, or are they quality leads that have been reached out to and then passed on? Like, does the doc calling versus CA calling leads increase coming in? Dexter, if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, I think that might better serve you.
Yeah.
He's there. I know he's there. He'll unmute himself. I can't ask to unmute you because Kendall's the host, but
Oh,
Dexter, whenever you can, unmute yourself and go ahead and interrupt us and ask your question. But we're going to continue to roll on to get through these last few slides.
yeah. I mean, I can tell you that anytime someone actually gets a call from a doctor, it
He said it won't unmute. I
interesting.
would assume that he's saying, like, do you forward leads for the office? Like, are you doing all the work and then scheduling these people who are seriously
Yeah.
interested?
Yep. So the first part about it is that we give everybody the option right on the ad to be able to actually schedule the appointment. But we're still going to reach out.
Oh, here we go. There we
Perfect.
go. On my iPhone, it wasn't registering my finger. Yeah. So, like, are you? say you get 20 leads come in, are you guys just passing them because you'll get 20 Facebook leads and two of those are good, or this and that versus are you guys contacting them and only passing the leads that want to schedule or book?
Yeah, so we built out a custom CRM. It's go high level, right? But we've built our systems within that. And so everything comes into that system, and then we've got I think we've got 12 callers now that they take those leads and they work those leads to get them scheduled. And we work the nurture side of things for you, to get those people scheduled. And so um, you so like if you were a client of ours, you would see all of those leads, but the only ones that are going to populate onto your calendar are the ones that actually schedule an appointment, and then we have confirmation processes to go through. And then we always recommend that the last couple confirmations actually come from your office, just to have that touch of the things that are unique about your practice. Filling out paperwork, or things that anything that you want to specifically make them aware of when it comes to your practice specifically. But what's really cool, and we just implemented this about 6 months ago, and we've got probably about 50% of our practices that are doing this, is we implemented this new confirmation process. And what we have found with it, so it's a confirmation process, and this is really good for practices who are like, I do not want to deal with tire kicker sort of patients, is that it will allow people to book appointments, but if they do not confirm, they actually get removed from the calendar and put back into the nurture sequences to schedule that appointment again. But when we do this confirmation process, we are seeing 90+% show rate from those appointments that actually confirm.
That's
And
huge.
it's crazy, right? And so one of my former associates and I actually worked on this for his practice. And he's been running ads with us for 3 years now. And we compared his 2023 to 2024 numbers. And I called him after I looked at the numbers. I said, "Are you sure that these numbers are right?" Because it was as shocking for me as it was for him, but it just had made such a difference. And so he wasn't dealing with, the people not showing up for their appointments, which, when you're putting, and like in his practice, he's averaging like 40 new patients a month. So, to have, 50 scheduled and 40 of them show is, or not even that, 45 schedule and 40 of them show, it's pretty amazing. But it all does boil down to nurture. Nurture matters more than it is a piece of the equation that you have to have in order to really get
So on this note, again, I had to do a presentation for a school, and it was the importance of a website in the age of social media. And one of my slides was all about touch points. And there's a rule of 7, and it states that a person typically needs to see a brand at least 7 times before taking any type of action. That's
Yep.
number one. Then number two, more of a high trust decision, like choosing a healthcare provider for their family, that would be, in my opinion, a high trust decision, may require 20 plus touch points before they
Yes.
feel ready to commit. So, again, taking in all of the information that we've been discussing tonight, with, the ads, after seeing it 4 times, that, engagement goes down by 45%. So that's where, Kendall's talking about the nurture is like, okay, not only do you have the ads, but you have the phone calls, you have emails, you have your website, you have your social media, and we need all of those things to work together so you reach that 20 plus touch point.
And,
So,
and what's funny about this, Jill, is that we had a CMO of a company that we were talking with things about, and we were talking about this, and we were talking specifically about how chiropractors. I cannot tell you how many times people will tell me, "Hey, I had a lead complain about the number of times that you guys reached out to them. Can we reduce the number of messages to them?" And we have to reframe this and I think that it kind of goes back to, I think it was one of the questions that we got earlier about the person who commented about, giving it away.
Yeah.
Don't let one or two people who are, kind of the Aunt Marge sort of people, like, dictate the things that actually are going to work for your practice, right? Because if we do this based around what all the sociology and marketing research, and we know those sort of facts, then we have to be okay with annoying one or two people to be able to help all those other people that truly need our help.
For sure.
So,
All right, the
um,
last 15 minutes, I want to open it up for
I'm going to make one last statement, and then I will.
sure.
This is one thing that is more important than anything, is having long-term partnerships, right? Not just having another marketing vendor. This relationship, they should be like another member of your team, someone that is helping you to be able to navigate growth, patient engagement, practice expansion. And this is why every single one of our marketing consultants meets with every single client every single week to discuss what's happening, because we can see the marketing numbers and you know what's happening in your practice. And unless you put those two things together, you are not going to have as successful of a marketing. And so that's the last point that I have. And it is so crucial that if you are not meeting with your marketing agency on a regular basis, you're probably always chasing the result versus being more proactive about it. And so that's what I got.
That's good. So good. I'm so glad we did this. Um, okay, so the last couple minutes that we have you guys for this evening, I would love if you want to unmute yourself, ask your questions. If you don't want to hear your voice on Zoom, pop questions in the chat. Um, but thank you for all of your insights tonight.
Yes.
So, so good. I'm going to start calling on people if you don't help me out and just say what you want to say. Cassie from Laguna Beach, who we're all jealous of. What's like a takeaway from this evening, or maybe a question that you have?
Good question. Let me think about it. Sorry, I'm multitasking.
You're totally fine. Think about it. We'll come back to you. Nicole, what about you? Nicole in the house. All right, Jeff is my go-to. I know that I can always count on you, Jeff. Unmute yourself. What's a takeaway or some question that you have for Kendall while we have him? Can you target specific types of conditions?
Yeah, we can. So like I give you disc issues, sciatic issues, knee issues, ankle, wrist, like there is absolutely the ability to do that. Headaches, yes, definitely. Right. And a lot of that can be done with just having the right creative around a condition. Um, and targeting women. Yes. Yeah. And if you look at the numbers, the vast majority of headache sufferers are women. So it's that all goes into kind of the demographic based research that we do on the front end. So if someone comes in and says, I want to do a headache and migraine based campaign around women that are aged 25 to 45, we're going to ask those questions about who it is, who that sort of avatar sort of patient that you're trying to go after. Now, caveat to that is that the more niche down, you just have to think about it from an audience perspective. If you've got 100,000 people in your town and you narrow that down to women, age 25 to 45, maybe that population is now 50,000. And then how many of those are headache sufferers? So your population starts to go down. And so you have to think about those things. And so that a lot of times when we run those sort of campaigns, we'll run that as a secondary campaign where it's like, we're going to do a broad campaign to hit all of those people who are potential patients and then this one. But yeah, it can be done. It's always just making sure that you're tailoring. Everything's a pros and cons. There's pros and cons to doing any sort of ad or specific condition based thing. And so understanding that um,
I would
is
assume that you sit with them though, right? Like, say hypothetical Jeff's going to hire you to target women with headaches. You would sit with him and say, okay, well, if we do that, this is your ad spend, this is how many you can expect from that ad spend, and you make educated decisions. It's not just like they're going to pay you $4,000 a month and like maybe hopefully get a woman with a headache one.
right. Yeah. And so, but I will say that also when you target those more condition specific things, if you've got, I would always recommend having some sort of program or protocol that's put together for it, um, because that is where you are going to, you know, it should be a little bit if you're really targeting and you're really like an expert in that sort of thing, you should be charging more for that thing,
Yeah.
right? And that's, it kind of where the business side of things comes into the marketing side as well.
James said he scheduled with you, and his takeaway is that if he's only conversing with his marketing company every 4 months, then there's probably a problem.
I can guarantee you there's a problem. I can guarantee you that there's a problem. Every 4 months, that would be, I mean, that would be like talking with your accountant every 4 months. And probably that's not even as good of an analogy. Um, you need to know
Maybe
what's happening.
maybe checking in with your patient. Like if you adjust them for 4 months, but you never say one word to them, and then in 4 months you're like, hey, so maybe we should schedule a re-exam.
Yes.
My takeaway is I need to schedule coffee. That's all. Hey,
Yeah.
Kate. So Kate Hansen, I am not familiar with who you are, so I'd love to hear maybe a takeaway or a question you have for Kendall. Nicole said, the whole strategy sounds amazing and comprehensive but expensive. The ROI looked good, but how long does it take? Should I plan on a loss for this first 6 months?
So no, our if in the first so so like I'll tell you guys, we do 4 month initial agreements with people, and if you don't re, if you don't see at least a 2-to-1 return on your investment in the first 4 months, we'll work for free for you the next month. In the last 3 years, we've had 3 people that have ever claimed it. So, um,
That's pretty good.
it's pretty good. So it's a pretty safe bet. And if people really lean into the relationship, they will get more than that, right? Um,
Okay, so
oh.
last two people I want to hear from, Cade and Cassie.
Actually, I'm going to jump on real quick. Sorry, I'm still trying to get babies to sleep, but
I love it. No.
um, one of the biggest things I know, like I struggle with, is like I popped in, you kind of were talking about nurturing, right?
Yep.
Like you get people's contact information and stuff like that, and like I guess I've kind of struggled with like what do I send people during that nurture time? Like, yeah, you can do your newsletters, but that doesn't really continue to push them into a more of a warm lead. So like what does a nurture kind of look like in terms of those continued touch points when they are just a cold lead by giving me the information?
That's a great
Yeah. So
question.
yeah, it is. It's a really good question. So, I mean, number one, like for us, it's calls. Like we're calling, 4 to 6 times within the first, it's more frequent in the first 2 days, and then it kind of tapers off over the next 10 days. Um, but we're also sending SMS messages. We're sending emails. So we've crafted those things that they're the typical sort of chiropractic sort of story that you would hear, right? Testimonial based stories. Hey, we had this awesome patient, this patient shared with us these results that they saw from chiropractic care, right? And so it's not always, and that's the other part about it is that we can even customize that to be stories that you give us or videos that you give us. And so we can record a 10-second, 20-second video, and we can send those out as SMS messages as well. And then so we've got that, and then we've got long-term nurture, which it goes out for 24 months with So if someone opts in, they will get messages for 24 months unless they opt out.
That's
That
2 years, guys.
yes, that's
You're not
regular and yes.
not good at math. It's 2 years of communication. That's a very long time.
And with that, we also will run re-engagement campaigns or re-engagement nurture sequences that will get those people. So once they go through the initial, 2-week sprint, then they go into the re-engagement campaigns that we will typically run about every 90 days that restarts that process with the long-term nurture. And so the goal, if I showed you the mind map of it, it's like so confusing, but it's like they come in, they go through this, then they go through this, it filters back to here and does this. And so the goal is just to continue to keep sending a message, sending a message, sending a message. So that way, when they are ready to finally, when you catch them on that day, when they go to lay their kids down at night and they can't lay in their bed because they can't and read a book to them, and they get that message, they got that message 2 hours earlier from your office. They're like, I need to freaking book a call, right? It's almost to the point of like, I'm going to nurture you until one of two things happens. You die or you come into my office, right? Like that's the mentality.
Or they tell you that they want to unsubscribe.
Exactly.
Category.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's 3, but
Okay. That's good. Does that answer your question, Scott? Hopefully, yes.
Yes, thank you. No, that was good. It just I don't know. It's one of those things like I've tried to do a lot of it on my own, and it just some things like I guess I don't even know. Sorry, I'm just in multiple spots at the moment, but it gets tough, and it's like at what point after a while you get tired and you're just like forget it, it's just you move on to the next one, but it's like sometimes I like give up too fast and whatever. I don't even know what I'm saying right now.
no,
It's also 9:30 at night, so you're fine.
And that's also, that's also why, that's why businesses like this exist, right? Is for people like you who don't want to do that sort of thing and want something that's just like, just do this for me, right? And
also story time with the whole like long-term nurturing. I email my people. I don't text them. I just do email. And I was nurturing my list, and I think like a year and a half into it, I had someone sign up. They were just like, I don't even need a call, like just sign me up. So it was free for me to send those emails. So it was like I wouldn't say like totally free, but just say like 98% income from that one sale, right? And they're still with me to this day. So there is power in the nurture. It's not a fast sale, but when you make the sale, it's like they've been following you for so long that you don't have to convince them. They're like, I already know that you're qualified. I already know everything that you do. Just whatever you need, take my money, sign me up, let's go. But again, you'll get those drip in, right? Like that's not the patients you get in from like doing ads or like events.
yeah. Well, and the thing about it is that, let's say you put 100 leads into your pipeline this month and 50 of those schedule and 25 of them show. And then the following month
That's
you
still
do
a
the same.
lot.
Yeah, you do the same
Like a
thing.
good marketing is 30% relatively. That's like high.
Yeah. And so but the point is like, okay, you now have 75 leads in your pipeline of people who know who you are and are going to see your ads if they're being run properly with retargeting based ads, and you're sending emails and you're sending text messages, and you do that year over year over year over year, you can put 30 to 50% of those patients back in your doors at some point if you continue to nurture them properly.
That's good for sure. There's power in the follow-up.
There's power in the follow-up.
All right. Well, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I normally go to bed at like 9 o'clock, but I love Kendall so much, and I love all of you guys, and I know that it's very hard when you're a doctor, especially on a Thursday, to like get home from shift. So, Kate and Cassie, still waiting to hear from you both.
I dropped. So there is zero pressure for me. Like I do this because I want to help people to be able to succeed and do this. But I dropped my link into the chat again. If you have questions, you want to talk about what we do, you want to talk chiropractic, you want to talk business, you want to talk deer hunting, schedule a call. I love being able to connect with business owners, and if I can help in any way, whether that's a service that we do or just answering questions, book a call and let's
And
chat.
he's not going to plug himself, but I will plug him. So I'm very protective over my people and over my brand. And so that is why it took me 3 years to even have this conversation with an ad company, because my husband is a chiropractor and we have been burned so many times by different agencies. And there's two agencies out there that I really feel wholeheartedly have the profession's best interest in mind. And one of them is Kendall with Elevate. So I do not take my job lightly at all. I'm very protective of my people. So if you have any questions, I highly recommend talking to Kendall.
Well, thank you for that.
Of course. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it's 9:30. I hope you guys all have a great night, and we will talk at another webinar. Maybe we have a follow-up.
All right. Nice meeting
Bye.
everybody. Thank you guys.